About time you got here. Have a seat, pour one, take your turn. Then we're going to while out to a track later because I'm glad you're here and you are home. Make no mistake.
Half-past despicable, last man to bring it through. Fast raps and critical stats, analytical slap. I'm hitting you smack. I'm sticking you smack lips to stack chips, all with the lyrical technique. For party crashes, liquor spilling mayhem. Punk cops to play them, super bitches to slay them. It's all serious biz, no time remains for the cattle defecation. You spitting, writing, and spraying. What the
Welcome to episode 93 of Breakup Gaming Society, a heavily autobiographical podcast about board games, booze, and hip-hop as told by me, your host and best pal, the Great Unclean One. Quick reminder that I still have cool custom-made and vintage swag for people who do things like help me pay for hosting and food. Breakup Gaming Society cocktail mini booklet, your own Defiant Frog sticker from our friends at Inkling Print Co, and for some of you, complimentary pull from my big crate of comic books from the 1980s. Check the donate page for details, and thank you in advance for your consideration. I know there are a lot of digital tip jars out there, but none that kick out little collections of prizes quite as charming as mine. What are we drinking, playing, and listening to in this episode? Drink of the week. There is none. Not only have I had very little to drink since Fritz Godard was here since our last episode, but what I have had to drink is not interesting. And besides, game of the week, this episode is going to be a lot. Luckily for us, Fritz will return in spirit, if not in person, to give us his top Colorado microbrew recommendations for summer. Speaking of spirits, game of the week, Dwelling, a solo RPG for ghosts from Good Luck Press. What's spookier? Nighttime in a forlorn house left to you by a troubled uncle, or the legions of people you hauled there with you? Definitely the latter. Hear my encounter notes so far in this emotionally and creatively challenging solo journaling game, Track of the Week. So the mini-series about electronic and hip-hop overlap is through. We are going back to the Queensbridge projects in the 90s for some hard shit from a Tragedy Khadafi mixtape. But for before all that, let's get into our pajamas and get ready to experience some feels. Here comes Game of the Week.
I kicked it, I kicked it, come on, you couldn't bang with this if your name was Genghis Khan.
So I have to tell you about a dream I had. My lifelong heartache and love, to the degree which I have ever experienced love, was in and out of my life for 20 years. Nobody else has been in my life that long or in so many forms. High school prom date and heartbreak, occasional lover and then girlfriend again, and heartbreak again, and a few sad ricochets off each other in our 30s. In the dream, I was in one of those very bright corporate office building lobbies with a big atrium overhead, overbright really, that also housed an art gallery. I saw her crossing it 20 feet from me. I knew she wouldn't turn her head, and, I began the encounter with the same, where did she go and why doesn't she want me anymore? In the dream, I had to do something undignified to get her attention because she was going to walk out of the lobby, and I knew that would be final. The next scene of the dream that I remember had us at a small circular table in the lobby. We had already talked for a time. I was entreating her. It became clear that the only love I would be getting was a universal one. One of her best qualities was a general deep tenderness and empathy for others, but not the kind I wanted. The explanation didn't gel into words, or none I could remember. I only remember that knock-you-over warmth of her smile and her dimples forming, and becoming aware of a document on the table before me, upon which sat one of those crappy Bics with a blue cap. I knew at once that I was to sign this document, which would not only surrender the addictive, selfish, and transactional love I demanded, but release me from everything I've hauled around over the decades, all of it, down to the clutching at life itself. I did not sign. I slammed the pen on the table, raised my voice. I don't remember her at the end because I'd attracted the attention of a security guard. He was a husky dude with a mustache, a shoulder-length haircut that suggested he was in a band that played taverns on the unfashionable strips of South Broadway in Denver, white shirt and gray slacks, explaining that I would indeed have to go, gracefully or not, ready or not. It was the kind of dream to which you want to remain in service for the entirety of the day after you have it. She had appeared to me as a psychopomp, figure that offers a mortal soul transport to the afterlife, and she had tried to be nice about it, transcending my wants and becoming a passing teacher, a door to something else. It riveted me for days. I was sad, but I also felt my time in the country had given me some weird signpost in the gallery of lost faces that I query and recall far too often. There's so many of them, sometimes they blot out the stars at night. I also felt like it's been too long since Breakup Gaming Society featured an indie creation. The past year has featured mostly popular titles from widely known publishers. So when I stumbled across Tabletop Toki, check her out on YouTube. She's an underrated creator, in my opinion. She was talking about Dwelling, a solo game for ghosts created by Seb Pines and published by Good Luck Press. I ordered a copy immediately. I was overdue for this. So, what follows is the first few rooms of encounters. So the backstory is your character in this solo journaling RPG is somebody who has just inherited a house from an uncle. Unsettled, you move room to room on a restless night and are fed prompts to describe the nature of the many spirits you find there as you track down sounds or weird forms in the shadow. What they look like even. You can draw them in the book if you want, but I skipped that part because I wanted to focus on the writing. I've always felt like my keyboard is the better paintbrush for me. What memories do they dredge up? What marks do their appearance leave on you? So what follows is my ghost story so far. I've had encounters in the bedroom, the guest room, the staircase to downstairs, and the living room. For each room, I'm going to set you up with a bit of the prompt for the book and then read what I wrote for the encounter. So bedroom first. So the first spectral appearance is queued up like this from the text of the book, quote, I let my eyes languidly take in the walls and make sense of the still unfamiliar shadows, tracing the shapes with my unfocused eyes and I'm still hazy from sleep. In my sleep-addled imagination, my mind conjures a shape in the shadows, the way the darkness piles at the end of my bed, making the dark shapes against the wall look as if something is peering over the edge of my bed, looking up at me. End quote. So here's how I managed that prompt. Just off my left foot, something with eyes on stalks, a repulsive density in the folds of the summer weight comforter that carries over from the dream. Its unverifiable teeth and its opacity of intent. Was it jostling for its corner of the bed or working its way up my leg? I was unable to move in the dream, but I manage a kick when I wake up. The dune folds of the comforter return now, innocuous. Throwing the comforter off me, there's the high contrast of cooling moisture on my left pec. I test it with my fingers. It's a small puddle. Then my armpits with my other hand and find them more or less dry. I lay there with my forearms pointed up for the better part of a minute, rubbing either thumb against index and middle in the wonder of a backslide. I stayed awake to bear witness as she slipped into her noiseless slumber, black hair splayed out, for a full hour, drooling slightly. It felt like the most important thing she'd ever told me, but I've always had a bad habit of assuming that more was exchanged in shared silence than had actually changed hand. There wasn't much in this room except a bed on the one weekend she spent here. My eyes are darkness-tuned enough now to see the pueblos of boxes in either corner. 3 months were done and I'm still stalled in dreams. So now the story takes our narrator back off the lip of sleep to investigate a sound in the hallway. We locate the guest room as the source, which was the primary bedroom of the uncle who left you the house. It is still furnished with many of his things, and the book feeds us another encounter with this cue, quote, uneasy in this space so personal to someone else, I find myself tiptoeing through the room. Moving through the room slowly, it feels like my stomach could drop. Then I hear a sound, a small, startled inhale, end quote. This sets up the following encounter as the being who made it forms in sight in action. I am seized with fear and shame. Something small regards me, glaring. The sudden need to placate it trumps the fear of its wrong presence. I release the muscles in my clenched feet and wamble forward. It vibrates with impatience. I peer at it, trying to find some outline at the edge of the simmering 7 shades of dark that ought to be its center. I test the air between us with a slowly raised hand. My heartbeat feels like a finger being drawn around in circles on the skin of a snare drum. I rummage for mollifying words. It will not wait for the words. Small hand reaches out, grabs my wrist loosely, thumb playing along my radius with a tentative, imploring pressure, then darts straight for the left pocket of my sweats, digging for something. I am wrapped with its anger. Hand darts away, and with it the thonk of whatever it was fishing for. The noise preempts the hiss of the snare drum skin. I find a lamp, turn it on, see my Motorola on the floor, screen spider-webbed from edge to edge. I did not carry that in here. I can never relax with that in my pockets. I wouldn't do that any more than I would wear plate armor to bed. I did not. I know it. Only the date and time display clearly now. I am able to unlock it, my skin dismayed at the new microcontinent of jagged fissures on its face. Important app icons are now occluded by a milky cloud of errant pixels, like a mind trying to out its last few sentences in the middle of a ground mal seizure. Half-digested juices of 10 years of sudden onset arguments, resolved by fatigue and breakage, if not reason. I cannot afford to replace the phone, nor think too long about replacing the phone. I place it on Uncle Jay's old dresser, my eyes fixing on the top leftmost drawer. That's where I found as a boy what I would later learn is called a moleskin notebook. Was I 5, 6, 7? On visits here to see Jay and Beverly with my parents, I was better than average at verbal stuff for my age, but unable to penetrate the atmosphere they generated around themselves in the evenings when Facts and Five would come out and they would play far into the night, smoking joints and drinking red wine and bantering in a tongue I badly wanted to acquire. Sometimes I would try to yip out things that sounded like they belonged in the category they were working on, but I would usually be left to entertain myself after tiring of staring at the box cover on the floor and failing to puzzle out how I could gain entry into a world where Abraham Lincoln, some kind of Asian princess, and a rushing football player all waited for you in a city of skyscrapers and old temples. Glum with being excluded and tired of the box that suggested everything and told me nothing, I'd wander the house. That's when I found the moleskin and Jay's block type and recognized some of the words, savage, gray, and sicknesses, but the sentences only resolved to the growing boredom weighing on me and the increasingly enchanted gulf between me, too tired to know I was past bedtime, and the laughter from downstairs. When the laughter inevitably turned to fighting, Jay's voice was always knifing over the top of everyone. Something snags or tickles inside my sweats. I reach in and pull out a long brown hair that somehow worked its way into the seam between my thigh and crotch. I whip it away backhanded. I did not bring this in here with me. Despite the displacement and anger, pure exhaustion, sweet and total, beckons me like a maritime wreck at peace in the sill. So that's the way the guest room encounter concludes, but no rest for our narrator, dear listener, because this long night is full of more sounds. Ready to go downstairs? Me either, but fuck it, because we hear the loud creaking of a door hinge from down there. So the next exercise is the descending staircase, where you're invited to recount the scenes from the day that led to this moment in time. I count 8 steps in the illustration on pages 24 and 25, so I do 8 memories, but not before my character yells at the source of the noise.
Can we please not have any more Krakatoas or Hindenburgs in the last 7 minutes of this fucking day?
I shout back at the unmistakable long creak of a door from downstairs. I know the cadence of those lumbar pops by now. That wasn't a door. Yelling back seems the strongest defensive spell I can cast. Good old annoyance, even as bravado, helps resituate me. I wait for an answer, for it to duplicate itself, then head downstairs, policing slowness, ears on high alert. A list of happenings, aka this fucking day. Step 1. I entered this house again from the dream of the debauch in the loft. Steel and glass like I imagined I'd have one day. The city off its balcony, a pile of fulvous, jeweled yellow of friends and employers there. There was a curtain of force that kept me at 15 feet removed from the faces. It would give at first when I moved near them, then swell and repulse me, and I'd find myself in stairwells, pushed into the wrong clothes, trying to avert or start emergencies in fuse boxes, looking at drywall and olive drab diamond plate steel landings, talking to undercover cannibals full of ruses and sinister half-formed phonemes, sentences fused together and rolling, an enduring feeling of failure that kept me in bed long after I woke. Step 2. Noticing the welts on the insides of both wrists like an allergic reaction, raised, red, like pollens went at me with claws. Step 3. Washed my server uniform and jeans and Uncle Jay's ancient Kenmore. It works fine, but I was so unsettled about taking ownership of this museum that I was still using laundromats a month after moving in. While doing this, I worked out a few more lines about the Realtor Bluegrass jingle where you get blown when you close on a house. Stomp your hands, clap and scream. It's the #1 dick-sucking realty team. Wrap your lips around the American dream. That's as far as I got. Step 4. I only have one freelance client left, so I should have done a better job. I used to crush stuff like that article in 45 minutes. Now it takes 3 hours. Writing is easy. Caring about it is nearly impossible. 45 minutes of breaks, Yahtzee on the phone, hunting for a pair of cufflinks. Cufflinks in the living room's unpacked boxes. I was seized with the fear at the thought of not having those cufflinks anymore. Step 5. Again I daydreamed until my body was past hungry and tipping into rage. Shrugged at the kitchen, still the only fully unpacked and operational room after 3 months, then drove up and down Welty Avenue, unable to make a decision about lunch as if there were a firing squad waiting for me after the meal. Wound up at Sonic, 4 cars deep with 4 heads each, and they all look like bearded dads in Under Armour hats with full vehicles modding every single thing they're ordering in every single bag. Can you fuckers die? Reminded me of that time Uncle Jay took me to Yosemite and we got caught behind some cross-country cyclists on a 2-laner while trying to exit the park. After 15 minutes of glaring over the top of his steering wheel in silence, the exquisite groan, can't they just hop tree to tree and leave me alone? Step 6. I gorged once I got the food home and attempted a half page of the book about the Byzantines. It was chief in Jay's collection, and he'd packaged what he thought were the funny parts for me over the years. Sometimes, when I'd get on his nerves, he'd tell me to comply or I'd get the Byzantine retirement plan, which by then I knew was having your eyes gouged out. I still can't get through the book. I'll read a book a month sometimes, then stick on one for a year, even if it's labor. The bare bedroom is getting too warm in September's late heat. I am at ease when the weather is pleasant enough not to think about and beset the other 10 months of the year. I know I should read, but all I can see is a shifting scribble of a brain trying to read. Step 7. I tried to relax with a walk at dusk, tracing a half-hearted 3-block rectangle, the horizon opening up briefly on the shortest leg of the rectangle, 23rd Street. I saw a disintegrating colossus of thunderheads visible in the west, but drizzled with pink on the outer rinds. Green on the bottom where the edge of the municipal golf course began 3 blocks away. I passed the janitorial supply store and the bleached cutout of the woman in the mop. I've walked by that shop since I was a kid, and I still can't tell if it's in business or not. Step 8. I found AB on Instagram because cycling tabs for a dribble of likes starts crushing you after the sun goes down. It was the same smile from when she asked me in the high school library where the pencil sharpener was. She knew damn well where the pencil sharpener was. Still a lovely dresser, stylish without being trendy. When she asked me about the pencil sharpener, I remember she had a turquoise bandana rolled into a perfect hairband, and I didn't understand in my panic what she was really asking me for at the time. But I did understand, or thought I did, that if you had a girlfriend with a turquoise bandana hairband and a smile like that, you were all right. You had a foothold on something. So next comes the living room, where we're going to see the first manifestation of AB, who we just met in the start of the segment in the dream and teased during the most recent stair step, which was 8. So I've got the living room scene written, but I'm going to pin this for now because I want to refine the scene a bit and talk about my impressions of this game so far, if you can call this a game. As a writer, I'm a fountain of jokes, complaints, opinions, and stories. That comes easy enough. I'm good at scenes, bits, and fragments, but I rarely attempt the discipline of longer stories. And when I have, it's usually show-off observation and ideas and riffs without much shape or feeling. Dwelling, and the way it nudges you to triangulate the book's cues with the things you remember and things you can embellish, has got me writing an actual goddamn story, or at least much more of one than I set out to do. I had to quietly eat some crow about my contempt for people who workshop stuff or go to conferences and do guided exercises and the like. But what pure stories have I ever written with my big manic imagination? Almost none. Yet here I am, several thousand words into one. Turns out I needed a prod in my ass after all, just like all the earnest amateurs I mocked to my friends. So I'm walking that one back. QED. Score 1 for you, game creator Seb Pines. The fact that it's a former uncle's house is also rich ground for me. Because of the dream I had, I more or less know the outcome and the arc I want, the intoxication of attachment and desire, its awful fulfillment, and the grace of letting go. But now I've got a subplot on my hands with the lingering presence of an uncle that has me thinking hard about the encounters as chapters and how Uncle Jay's strand mirrors or diverges from the narrator's wanderings. It's almost overwhelming. This is turning into a workout. And that goes for the emotional processing, too. I've noticed something else cool happening in the past few weeks. I'm revisiting scenes of my old self with less recrimination, less shame, less bitterness. I don't want to oversell this as some replacement for more formal means of care, but grinding through these scenes transmutes the poison tang of how I recall things, at least lately. I feel lighter. I can sift a bit more dispassionately, not picture everything as evidence against myself or others. So where does this sit in the tableau of experiences we would call games and the kind of things we usually talk about on Breakup Gaming Society? I can't tell you yet. This is a categorically different experience, and I'm incredibly glad I sought it out. I intend to stick with it. So if you like the story so far, keep up on the Breakup Gaming Society blog this summer as I add encounters and work through this book. Next, Queensbridge is going to go bump in the night. It's track of the week.
I kicked it, yup, I kicked it, come on. You couldn't bang with this if your name was Genghis Khan.
So a few years back, Tragedy Khadafi, a Queensbridge legend who began his career rapping under the moniker Intelligent Hoodlum, dumped a massive old 90s mixtape online called the Kuwait tapes. It had Nas, Capone and Noriega, Sticky Fingers, Pete Rock, Capadonna, Mobb Deep, Chuck D, Dead Prez, Black Thought, Pharaoh Monch, R.A. the Rugged Man, The Lox, Mike Geronimo, Ja Rule, DMX, and more. So the firepower was there. It's an embarrassment of talent and a monument to the mid-late 90s hardcore, bare-knuckle New York sound. I first heard a fragment of a track from this called Let's Be Specific on Funkmaster Flex CD and never forgot this one, which features Cool Whip, Bumpy Knuckles, Funkmaster Flex, Raekwon, and Havoc from Mobb Deep. I'm not worth a shit in a fight. I'm not good at it. But the way this opens makes me want to try anyway.
This is Flavor right here. 60 minutes, y'all.
Just wasn't ready for real, so here's the deal. No tight remorse when I pull skill. Kill you and your fucking horse. I'm in the midst of musical moments. Lyrical guns bust. Bibles you trust when body parts turn to dust. Slain is slain, you turn slave. You're like Batman, running through your bitch ass back here. Be aware when you witness and turn like burn grenades. Got you swimming while you're dreaming and cool with seeing. Headaches are like earthquakes, breaking you down and crying out for your lady. You motherfucking crybaby.
I've never found super clean audio of this one, but that somehow makes it better. It's like they let a noise rock band raid the studio and just push all the output sliders to the top. The way that pulsing bass, repeated artificial growl effect, and tinny piano stab play off each other is elementally perfect. As it plays, you also get Raekwon from Wu-Tang and Havoc from Mobb Deep in the rotation, but I'm still making some kind of plaque for whoever made the decision to let Bumpy Knuckles, formerly known as Freddie Fox, bring it all home. Now, Bumpy Knucks dropped unforgettable guest verses wherever he went, and he was also known as one of those guys who was just as dangerous, if not more, off the mic as on it. This beat feels made for him, where he speaks quite credibly about his stay at Sing Sing.
One love, the funk master. I'm in the hole, nigga, macking and sing. Barefoot and drawers. From jacking yours, nigga, cause you soft. 99 push-ups, I'm fiending for the mic. I'm starting to bug the fuck out. I'm stomping all mice. They feed me like an animal, my style is mad wild. And back in population, I refuse to crack a smile ever since I blew trial. My attitude is fucked up. Anybody say shit to me, they're getting stuffed up. Petty dope dealers, pimps and big players. Fox got the block locked down, the rhyme slayer. I'm one-on-one scraps for shank, ripping skulls. Chopping mad niggas till the blade is mad dull.
So now you know what to do if you're looking off the balcony, coffee in hand on a cool morning and thinking, I want my neighbors to be scared of me. I want my roommates unable to maintain eye contact with me for the next 2 weeks. I want to get put on some kind of watch list. The giants of Queensbridge will never die. So that's the end of episode 93. Thanks for listening to my story. If you can, hit up the donate page and drop a 10. I will thank you with a copy of Breakup Gaming Society's cocktail booklet, Chaotic Shots and Cocktails That Will Hurt Your Friends, and your own Defiant Frog sticker from my friends at Inkling Print Co. Hit me with $20. That basically takes care of shipping. And you get both of those things plus a pull from my 80s comic book vault. Some restrictions apply, details on the donate page. And if you can't do any of that, that's cool. A share on your timeline, a rating or review somewhere, or even a note via my contact page telling me you want to hear more, that all counts. So in between writing chapters about ghosts and memories, I've been learning a game I've owned since 1979, Avalon Hill's mother of them all tactical infantry game, Squad Leader. We'll talk about that one in a fortnight, along with summer Colorado microbrew suggestions from our resident bartender, Fritz Goddard, and another classic hip-hop banger to think about. Until next time, I remain your friend and vector, the great unclean one. May you fight long and well.
3 is a magic number.
The little twat Tim Sen wrote this one, Paul Daniels, I think. It's magic. Most blokes like the number 3.